Hello friends, welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to how to contribute to open source projects. So I was live like 30 minutes ago. I did a Q&A session. People asked lots and lots of questions, but when it came down to what should I do or what should I build, this question, how to contribute to open source projects, was the winner. So we're gonna do a totally separate video on it. And right now, I actually have a blank document. So everyone in the chat agrees that I should come up with my to-do and stuff like that while I'm streaming. So I'm going to do that. Hopefully, I think I will edit this down to make it a little bit more consumable. But right now, we're kind of just hanging out. I'll make the to-do, and then we'll do it. And just to mention, I do plan to attempt to contribute to the p5.js web editor. So if you're not familiar with it, this is it. If you watch Coding Train, you've probably seen this before. But this is a fun little tool where you can actually code in p5.js inside of the browser. You can save your projects, you can preview them. But this is actually an open source project. It's written in React.js, the front end is. And the front end is completely and totally open source. It's here on GitHub. And anyone can come and contribute. And I'm going to show you how we do that. What's the process? Let's say hello to all the people in the chat. Hello, Hexception, welcome to the stream. I don't think I saw you in the last stream. Welcome. Hello, Ed, welcome back. Hello, Sergi, welcome back. Hello, Andreas, welcome back. Hello, Danielle, welcome. Hello, oh, there's another Andreas. Hello, welcome. Hello, Aaron. Infi says, hey there, first time catching a live stream? Awesome, welcome to the stream. Aaron says, so used to skipping past this part. You can't, it's live, unless you have a time travel machine. Hello, Christopher, welcome. Hello, Infi. Hello, Jelly. Infi expected this to be 30 minutes in, but you're early. Yeah, I took a 30-minute break, sat down. I was standing for like 2 hours during the last live stream. Andreas is saying this could be part one of a series as well. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because and I guess that's another thing. Like, realistically, will I be able to fix a bug or complete a feature within this live stream? I don't know. I have been talking for a large amount of today, so I'm a little bit tired. So maybe I won't be able to, but I definitely will describe the process. How do you get set up? How do you get started? All that kind of stuff. Hello, man on the run. Hello, Amit. Hello, Mateus. Mateus. I think I'm saying, yeah. I thought I missed some letters. Mateus. Hello. Hello, Harsh. Welcome. Hello, Linus. Hello, Huggy. Couldn't wait for the countdown to be over. We're here. We're live. You pronounce my name surprisingly right, considering it's not designed for English. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, let's do it. But let me create kind of like what are we going to do? What are the first steps? So step one, we should like find a project. Step two is read the community guidelines, or I think it's usually called like the code of conduct. Read the contribution guides. So typically every open source project will have a code of conduct. So that is, it's typically just like be nice to each other, that kind of thing. But you want to make sure that you adhere to that because part of this whole open source thing is you're collaborating with people all over the world on the web. And you need to make sure that you're nice about doing that. The next thing is reading the contribution guidelines. So typically, if a project is large enough, they'll actually have a document that describes how does this project work? Like, how do you submit an issue? How do you create a pull request? Those types of things. We'll also need to read the development setup guide. So most projects, again, will have a guide on how do you get this project up and running locally to start contributing to it, because that's typically what you'll need to do. It's on GitHub, but you'll need to bring it down. You'll need to potentially create a branch, start working on it. All of that about the flow and workflow and everything should be in the contribution guidelines, and we'll get the development set up locally. So yeah, read the contribution guidelines, read the development setup guide, and let's say get set up locally based on that. Then after we've done that, we're going to need to find an issue. find an issue to work on. So typically, if you're dealing with a GitHub project, there is the issue tracker here. And depending on the size of the project, there may be hundreds of issues, there may be very few issues, but this is really where you want to look to see what can I work on. I'll talk about this when we get there, but typically most projects have labels on them. And so there's things like a good first issue. This is might be where you want to start. Sometimes that's as simple as like a documentation fix or something like that. But the maintainers of the project try to keep things labeled in this way so that if you're totally new to this kind of thing, it's really easy for you to like pick that issue and kind of get up and going. Okay, so we find an issue to work on. I would probably say add a comment to the issue to say that you are working on it. And this is mainly just so that you don't duplicate work. Let's word wrap this. So, and again, because something like this is so asynchronous, like there's people all over the world working on it, somebody could already be working on this, but maybe they just haven't submitted a comment. I like to, just so that other people know that, hey, someone's working on this. And potentially, if they want to help or work on it as well, they know to look at my fork of the project to see potentially any work that I've done. So add a comment to an issue, say that you're working on it. Begin working. Then we'll submit a pull request. And then go from there. I'm sure we'll expand out this to-do a little bit as we move along. And if you have any questions in the chat about any one of these things, please ask them. We'll try to talk about all this stuff in depth. And I think that's kind of it. Let's catch up. Hello, Vatutas. Hello, Giorgio from Spain. Welcome. Harsh is saying, I'm also planning to make an open source project on making a real world website for a fake restaurant. Interesting. It will have admin panels, blog, recipe app, and more. It will help me in managing that project. Thanks. Yeah, and so this isn't exactly going to be a stream on how to make your own project open source and do this kind of thing, but you definitely can look at some of the more popular projects out there to see how do they do it. Like, how do they get random internet people to start contributing to their code base? Cool. Hello, memes. Welcome back. Harsh asks, how can I make a code of conduct? Just a few quick tips. Honestly, you can just copy and paste their code of conduct. That's actually what I did for our Discord. So the Discord channel, whenever you join, there's actually a code of conduct and I think a link to the code of conduct. But I took the code of conduct from the p5.js organization and kind of just adjusted it slightly to fit Coding Garden. And that's totally okay to do. And I'm sure you can find a lot of different examples of code of conducts out there. Cool. Hexception says, I'm sitting here while I wait for my very, very big Java project to compile to test. Have you seen that XKCD comic? Code is compiling. I used to have this printed out in my workspace at my very first job. The #1 programmer excuse for legitimately slacking off. My code's compiling. Hey, get back to work. Compiling. Oh, carry on. Yeah. Yeah, memes ask, what is the stream about? We are going to attempt to contribute to the p5.js web editor live, and we're going to show how all that will work. Hello, Carlos, who's from Colombia. That's awesome. Welcome. Aaron is asking, will you be answering off-topic questions on the stream? Potentially, but I also don't want to get off track because I have already streamed for like over 2 hours today. Yeah, and Linus, thanks for backing me up. Pretty much the same thing. It wouldn't hurt to ask it. I just may not answer it. Okay. So here we go. The first step is to find a project. There are tons out there. I mean, actually, GitHub has this Explore feature. This is just like very popular open source projects. I mean, I think typically the things that people contribute to are things that they actually use themselves. It doesn't have to be that way, especially if you're trying to just practice coding or practice collaborating. You can really attempt to contribute to anything, but a lot of times that's what keeps the open source world going around. Someone is using a particular open source project or library or framework, and it has a bug in it that they need to fix for their own project. So they go in and submit a pull request to fix that type of thing. So there are tons of open source projects on there. GitHub has this explore feature. You can also check out GitLab. I'm sure they have a very similar thing. Because it's not just specific to GitHub. GitHub is one of the most popular things out there, and it's what a lot of people use to collaborate, but it's not the only thing. There are other stuff. So there's GitLab. Let's click explore on here. Yeah, and we can see some trending repos. We can see repos that have the most stars. So really, the first step of finding a project is really just find something that interests you, find something that you're already working in or working on, and then you can go from there. So for this particular thing, I'm going to attempt to contribute to the p5.js web editor. So I found my project. Step 1, done. I think someone mentioned I didn't have checkboxes, and you are correct. So let's add some checkboxes. Yep, and I guess I'll also mention, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but the project should probably be in a language that you know or you're learning. It should be something that you're somewhat familiar with. It wouldn't make sense for me to go to some open source C++ project and attempt to make a pull request. I could, because I maybe know a little bit of C++, but it's not my main area of expertise. So I would look for something that I already know. And this is a React JavaScript project. I do that daily, so I should be able to help. Okay, next step. Read the code of conduct. So if we look at the repo, and actually I would start with just like read the README. Before you go any further, let's look at the README. Let's see what it says, because it's going to have links to all of these other things. So let's look at the README. So they describe the p5.js web editor. That's great. They talk about issues. So please post bugs and feature requests in the correct repository. So the p5.js web editor is specifically this application, which is a web editor for editing p5. There are p5.js libraries like the p5 DOM, the sound library, the accessibility library, and those are actually separate projects and separate GitHub repos. So this is just telling you, hey, if you want to contribute to those or if you have issues for those, you should go to those specific projects, as it's not directly related to p5.js web editor. Okay. Cool. So they have a get involved section. This is great because that's what I want to do. I want to get involved. And it says the p5.js web editor is a collaborative project created by many individuals, and you are invited to help. All types of involvement are welcome. You can start with the p5.js community section, which also applies to this project. So let's go to it. Developers check the developer docs, details about contributing code, bug fixes, and documentation. To start writing code, a great place to start is the development guide. So this is great. So this is an awesome open source project in that in their README, they're linking me to all the places I need to go to be able to contribute. So that's awesome. Let's just see, like, in the code repo here, do they have a code of conduct? Let's see. Yeah, I don't see a code of conduct directly, but it's probably because it's under the P5 umbrella. So the code of conduct for the P5.js Foundation is most likely the code of conduct for this particular project. So let's check out this community tab, like it told me to. So P5.js is a community interested in exploring the creation of art and design with technology. That's great. All the people, they like these hashtags. We're not code snobs. So this is kind of like a code of conduct. We're not code snobs. We do not assume knowledge or imply there are things that somebody should know. We insist on actively engaging with requests for feedback, regardless of their complexity. We welcome newcomers and prioritize the education of others. We strive to approach all tasks with the enthusiasm of a newcomer because we believe that newcomers are just as valuable in this effort as experts. We consistently make the effort to actively recognize and validate multiple types of contributions, and we are always willing to offer help or guidance. This is great. So yeah, and this is really just about the community itself. And it's kind of like a code of conduct. Let's see if, or the Processing Foundation has a code of conduct. Well, there's the OpenStack code of conduct. The JS Foundation has a code of conduct. Cool. So this is not specific to p5.js, but someone in the chat did ask a question of like, I want to start an open source project. Where do I get my code of conduct? As I mentioned, you can just look at existing ones and pick and choose from there and create your own. So OpenStack has a code of conduct. You can look at that one. The JS Foundation has a code of conduct. You could potentially use that one. And typically they all have very similar things like be friendly and patient, be welcoming, be considerate, be respectful, be careful with your wording. When we disagree, try and understand why. I think the thing about open source projects is that people are literally spending their spare time, their free time, on this project. And so if you come in with a hostile attitude of like, hey, this feature doesn't exist, do it right now, and you're not respectful to the people working on it, that just hurts them. It makes the open source contributors feel bad and potentially not want to even contribute to this thing in the first place. So, I mean, the code of conduct doesn't only apply to people that are actively contributing code. It's people that are submitting bugs or making feature requests, because we all need to be a nice community and communicate effectively to keep that community going and keep the project going. So that's the code of conduct. Let's see. This is the advocacy for the Processing Foundation. Let's see. It's not exactly the code of conduct, but I think you get the idea, and I think especially this community tab is a bit of a code of conduct for when we're contributing to this project. So step 2 is done. We read the README. We saw everything that they had to offer. We also noticed that they linked us to contribution guidelines and development documentation, so we can use that in a bit, so that's great. We read their community guide and potentially their code of conduct if they have it. We want to make sure that we're adhering to that. We're being nice and open. We're not going to be forceful. I'm not going to make a pull request and say, hey, accept this pull request right now. I'm going to make the pull request and say, hey, I tried to fix this. I'd like a code review. You're all wonderful. You're doing great work. Thank you. So we can go on from there. All right, let's catch up on the chat and then we'll keep moving. Infi says, I would totally do a super chat, but my YouTube app refuses to try opening the dialogue. That's fine. I appreciate the thought. Linus says, I love GitLab. GitLab is cool. Yeah, Danielle says, basically, don't be a jerk. Yeah, just be nice. Be nice. Cool. All right. Next up is reading the contribution guidelines. So we saw in the README that they have developer docs and development guide. I think their developer docs, yeah, these are kind of like contribution guidelines because it has ultimately preparing a pull request. Let's see the development docs. We have installation, tests, designs, technologies. Let's look at preparing a pull request. Yeah, so I mean, these are pretty much our contribution guidelines. So they're nice enough to actually break down how does Git work and how do all these Git commands work and how do you make a pull request. But it's essentially telling us like how are we going to submit our changes for review once we actually do submit them. So that's great. And then these other things are actually like getting it set up locally, which is what I'm going to attempt to do next. Yeah, and then this is just a good breakdown of what they're actually using. So they're using React because I've looked at the code. I know that for sure. But they're using ES6 for common and reusable styles. Right, object-oriented SCSS or SAS. The project doesn't use CSS modules, styled components, or other CSS and JS libraries, but it does use SAS. BEM guidelines and naming conventions are followed. So if you are contributing potentially some style changes, you want to make sure that you adhere to BEM guidelines and object-oriented SAS. So that's good to know in terms of contributing. For reference to the JavaScript style guide, see the Airbnb style guide and the React ESLint plugin. So when I pull this down locally, my editor should have all of that up and running for me. But that's another thing for contribution guidelines. With like the code that I write should adhere to the Airbnb style guide. And I'm going to run a linter on the code. I'm sure that they have a linting task, which will check that. And that ultimately will just allow the pull request review process to go a lot smoother, because when I submit that pull request, I'm going to make sure that my code adheres to all of their guidelines. Cool. They're using Jest for unit tests and snapshot testing with Enzyme. Awesome. So I think that's pretty good. I'm getting a good idea of how to contribute to this thing. So we'll check that off. And now we're going to do the development setup guide. So installation, a guide for setting up your development environment. Let's check it out. Follow these instructions to set up your development environment, which you need to do before you start contributing code to this project. So they have manual installation, which is probably what I can do because I do have Node and I can clone it down and start it up. And then they also have Docker setup. I think to make this guide more accessible, I'm just going to do the local setup because that's what most people will do. Docker is actually really cool and would probably be simpler, but not everyone has Docker. Some people are on Windows. It's not as easy. We'll do the manual setup. So first thing we need to do is fork the repository. So I didn't mention it here, but let's actually add it as something that we need to do, which is fork the repository. So let's do that here. So when you go to the project on GitHub, you will see this fork button. And what the fork button does is it makes a complete copy of this repo on your own personal account. And what that allows you to do is make changes like crazy, and you're not affecting the main one. Right now, I wouldn't be able to anyways because they have permissions set up where I can't modify this. So a fork is going to be a copy that I can modify. And then later on, a pull request is basically a request that says, I made a change on my copy. Will you please merge it into your main one so that way we can fix a bug or have a new feature? So I'm going to make a fork. Let's click on it. I belong to a lot of organizations, but I'm just going to fork it under my personal account. And it's going to do what it needs to do. Andreas is saying, teach us Docker on a future stream. I definitely will, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm becoming to love Docker. Cool. Okay, so the fork completed, and we can now see, if we look at the URL, I'm now under my user account, and then it has the p5.js web editor. So this is a complete and total copy under my username, and it's actually like separate from the main one. It does say that I forked it, but now because it's under my account, I can change this code all day, yeah, it'll just work, at least locally on my copy. Ultimately, what we're going to do is submit a pull request so those changes can make their way back into the main repo. But for now, I have my own copy, so that's great. So now that I have a copy, I'm actually going to clone this one. So let's do it. I'm in this folder. I'm just going to say git clone, and it should clone it down. Cool. So I've cloned it. It says navigate into the project folder and install all of the necessary dependencies with npm. I think I can do that. So let's go into that folder. And then I'll just do npm I, and that's going to download all of the dependencies. So if you've ever worked in a React project or a Node project, it has this package.json, which lists all of the dependencies like React and ESLint and stuff like that. And so now I'm downloading all of those locally so I can run this project locally. Oh, Infi is saying, Docker is surprisingly painless on Windows. That's good to hear. I think it's a more recent development, especially with like the Ubuntu subsystem on Docker on Windows. I don't know if it uses that, but it's interesting because Docker is a containerization technology, and which essentially means it's creating like a small version of your operating system right next to your operating system. And typically Docker containers are like Linux images. So on Windows, I think before it had to actually put things in a virtual machine. Maybe it can do it natively now, but yeah, so that's good to know. Cool. Andreas asked a question, if you pull from origin, where would you be pulling from? In this case, if I do a git remote -v, my origin is set up to be my specific copy of the repo. And that's because I did a git clone. When you do a git clone, the origin is set up to be the thing that you cloned it from. So if I wanted to add a remote in here, which is the like official P5 project on GitHub, I could do that. And then anytime I wanted to pull in the latest changes, which are going to be on the main repo, I could actually pull from there. And it is good to note that once you make a fork, it is now actually like it's a snapshot in time, it's a copy. And so if any changes happen on the main repo, you actually need to bring those changes in. It's not going to happen automatically. So what I'll show and when we're contributing, what I'll show is that before you do make a pull request, you're going to want to make sure that you have all of the latest code locally, so that way you don't run into any merge conflicts or anything like that. Okay, so we installed the dependencies. Install MongoDB and make sure that it's running. So I already have MongoDB installed with Brew. I need to just start it up and make sure that it's running. So let's do it. MongoDB is already started. Cool, so I should be good there. This next item says copy env.example to .env. So if you're new to Node, the .env file has environment variables inside of it. So let's open this up. And we can look at the .env.example. So there are a lot of environment variables in here. And essentially, I need to make a copy of this and then update all of the variables to get it running locally. I potentially won't have to update all of them because I'm not getting the full thing up and working. I really need to just focus on whatever feature that I'm going to be working on. And we'll figure that out in a second. But I do need to create a .env file so that it knows to look at that. Okay, so we're going to copy .env.example to the .env file. Cool. Update .env with necessary keys to enable certain app behaviors. Example, GitHub ID, GitHub secret, if I want to be able to log in with GitHub. I may need to do that later if I'm dealing with a feature that requires a user to be logged in. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. And then when I'm ready, I can go add, this one, the .env. I can go update it later if I need to. Okay. npm run fetch examples. This downloads the example sketches into a user called p5. Let's do it. Go. Nice, it worked. Okay, then do npm start. All right, looks like it's up and running on port 8000. And then now I should be able to visit localhost 8000 in a browser. It's trying. If we look at the terminal, oh, wait until bundle finished. Okay, so it's got to bundle the app. Let's give it a second. Compiled successfully, and there we go. So this is the p5.js web editor, but it's running on my machine. So I could actually disconnect from the internet and this would still work. I'm not going to do that because I'm streaming, but we can see in the URL, I'm localhost 8000. That means it's using all of the code that I have locally to run this app. I could change it. It'll change locally. But now this is completely and totally separate from the one that's actually on the internet. So I'm going to close that tab just so I don't confuse myself. But we got it up and running locally. That's awesome. And it's great that all I had to do were run these commands exactly and it just worked. Sometimes if you're working or trying to contribute to a project that's maybe a little bit older or they haven't kept the docs up to date, you may find at this point that the thing doesn't even run or you have to maybe change some things. But that could potentially be a good first pull request is you ran into some issues getting it running locally. And so you fix those and then you can make a pull request to like update the documentation. But I don't need to do that because they've done a wonderful job of keeping everything documented. They say install the React developer tools. I already have those, but that's going to help us debug whenever we're developing. Open and close the Redux dev tools using Control-H and Control-W. Awesome. So we're up and running locally. For S3 bucket configuration, this is optional unless you are working on the part of the application that allows the user to upload images, videos, etc. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be doing that just yet, so I'm not going to configure it, but we'll keep this tab open in the event that I do need to do that. Let's see. So we were looking at the developer docs. We did installation. That's great. Let's check out development, a guide for adding code to the web editor. So I finished the installation guide. To run the test suite, simply run npm test. A sample unit test can be found here. Cool. Let's actually just run the test because, I mean, they should all pass locally. I pulled from master, so let's do npm test. Awesome. Test pass. There are not a lot of tests. Yeah, hopefully I'm not missing any. And actually, let's kind of just like start to dive into this. Okay, so that was tests at the top level. Maybe there are tests for the server specifically, and then for the client specifically. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Design, proposed, and theme changes are present in Zeppelin, so that's cool. So Zeppelin is a tool for posting mockups of designs that developers can then use to implement. So they have their color palette here, typography, various designs. I may not need any of this for my contribution, but it's good to know that that exists. Technologies, we went over that earlier. And then preparing a pull request. I don't want to do that just yet. I think I'm ready to find what issue I'm going to attempt to contribute to the app. So let's do it. To look at my README, we reread the development setup guide. We're up and running. I am running from a fork of the repository, so remember that's a complete and total copy on my machine or on my GitHub user account. We're now set up locally, which is great. Now let's find an issue to work on. So let's talk a bit about the issue tracker on P5, well, on GitHub, but specifically on the p5.js web editor repo. Actually, no, this is p5.js. I want the web editor. Cool. And so I can see under issues, there are 190 of them. And so your first task is just to find a good one. And most projects, if they're set up correctly, will have of labels. And there are things like a label that's good first issue. And so a lot of projects do this if they know that newer developers or people that are new to the project might want to contribute. And so if you're totally new to all of this, you probably want to start here. So every single one of these features is labeled as good first issue, and I could potentially read about the issue and try to start working on it locally. Because I'm a more seasoned developer, I'm not gonna check that one. I'm gonna leave that one for the people that need it. I am gonna check. Let's do high priority. Maybe we can help out on something that has been lingering for a while. What else? Help wanted. That's a good label. So if they know that no one else is working on this or has decided to work on it, they've labeled it help wanted. So that's good. What else? Yeah, and then there's like type bug or type feature, type idea. I think I'm gonna focus on bugs. I don't really want to create a new feature. I just want to fix something that's currently broken. And that's my choice. It's up to you to decide how and what you want to contribute, but that's how I'm narrowing my scope. So I'm looking for things that are high priority, they're labeled help wanted, and they are bugs. In this case, we have 16 issues that match that. So now it's just a matter of finding one that I want to contribute to. I could sort it by oldest. These are some really old issues. They may be harder to work on. I'm of course going to have to research like what is even involved with this issue. You definitely want to read the comments because there's probably some prior knowledge that you need to figure out how to fix this thing. But typically older issues are things that have been sitting around for a while that nobody has worked on. So I'm going to try to find one of those. And yeah, I think it's good. Let's just figure out in here which one I'm going to work on. Infi says, the first character on line 8 of your README has an 8 as opposed to an asterisk. Let's fix that. Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay, so yeah, when you're finding an issue, you want to filter by labels, sort by probably oldest, and ultimately you want to sort by oldest because those are the issues that have been lingering that have not been fixed. And if you fix those, you're definitely helping out the project. If you only do newest, you're never going to really help fix some of the stuff that's been around for a while. But okay. This one was created in 2017, so it's pretty old, by Schiffman, and it says missing console errors, file not found. Let's just read about it. This may not be the one that we work on, but let's see what it has to say. So starting over from issue number 444, I may need to go read that issue if I need more context. This GitHub issue is to track error messages that show up in the native JS console, but not in the p5.js web editor console. To be clear, there are likely some error messages that should be hidden in the web editor console, so this thread is also for discussion around these questions. So that's interesting. This could potentially mean that this issue isn't exactly ready to work on because they may still be deciding what are the types of errors that we want to show, but it's good to know. The first issue contains a list of all the errors, and the subsequent comments will include specific code examples to trigger the missing error. Anyone should feel free to jump in and add to the comment thread, and I'll keep this list up to date. That's actually really cool because like each one of these comments is almost like one bug that you can fix. Cool. All right, so there are those. Oh, and so here's a comment from 2018. This has mostly been fixed except for the file not found error. Not sure why that's not getting to the console. This person mentioned that it's a duplicate. We can see that the duplicate was closed, so that's good. I was looking through how errors are captured, thought this might help. And then maybe we're using the console feed library, so I'm not sure if that error handler needs to be added in addition to console feed. Okay, so the last comment on here was in May. It looks like this issue is still open, and the issue of file not found, which is this one, has not been resolved. So that's potentially one that we could try and work on and fix. I'm gonna leave that tab open, but let's keep looking. Yeah, I don't want to do anything, like I said, I don't want to do anything that's good first issue. We're going to leave that for the beginners. When auto refresh is on and start typing a loop sentence, browser crashes and changes are lost. Huh. Let's check it out. A comment from Infi. I contributed to a README for contributing. That's meta. Yeah, and you absolutely can. Like, I don't know, in the README or in the README that we were following for development setup, like if there were any typos or missing stuff there, we could potentially make a pull request to fix that. That absolutely helps the project. Like, not all contributions have to be code contributions. Having good documentation, all of that really helps the project. Okay, so this is a bug. It could happen with any loop statement. Auto refresh will try to execute the code while typing, writing something like that. It makes the browser to crash and all changes done are lost. Oh, but then there's a comment that says, hopefully this will be fixed by number 698. Which means if anyone's working on 698, I probably shouldn't work on that one. Okay. Yeah, someone started working on it. Keep getting an error. Switching this to high priority, it's causing a lot of bugs and frustration. We can see that the timeline is really cool because you can kind of see the history of this issue, and other issues might actually reference this issue, and so they'll pop up here. And then later on, when we create a pull request, we'll reference the issue number, and if that pull request gets closed or if it gets merged, you'll see that in here too. So this pull request was merged, and it actually referenced this issue. Let's see. Not sure if this is happening, but I feel that we need to transpile down to ES5 and then create a transform code. I converted it to JSBin, and it still gets stuck. Okay, looks like this one is still open. The last activity was in March. Another candidate. Let's like find one more, then maybe we can vote on which one that I try to fix. Yeah, we're gonna skip the good for first issue. Okay, this one. Editor crashing with infinite loops and edge cases. That's the one that I just looked at. What about this one? Load image file path acting up, loads with arbitrary folder names. When I run this locally, everything works as expected. One of my students ran into this problem. For example, defaults to the first folder inside the images folder. An arbitrary folder name. It's not a folder or anything that exists. So I think what this is if you reference an image in a nested folder, it actually doesn't go down to the nested folder. Okay, so it acts like it's working, but it's not. I understand what's happening. When the file names are generated programmatically rather than just a string in line, it loads the files in a different way. It seems like that algorithm is too greedy. Okay, that one's a little unclear to me, so I don't know how I would try and fix that one. I'm going to skip over that one. Line 0 error on iOS only. I could potentially test this like in a simulator. I don't know if I could reproduce it. Nature of the issue: found a bug and bug an existing feature enhancement. Yeah, so this is when someone's in Safari. It looks like they might be on an iPad trying to use it. Thanks for reporting. I'm also able to reproduce this on desktop Safari. Cool, so I could attempt to fix it with Safari on a Mac. A lot of changes have been made recently to the console, so I assume it's ready to load. Will investigate. Looks like it's still open. I think that's another candidate. Okay. Let's look at this last one, and then we can vote on which one I try to start fixing. Fetching file contents from JavaScript does not return correct content. Add a new file. Edit that file with anything. Go to the file URL. Go back to the editor and modify async file. Save the whole project. Go back to the other tab displaying the content of async file. Refresh. The content has not changed. Cool. So Cataract sees the same issue. That was back in March. Yeah, and then there's a comment here that says they're still working on this. That was back in March, but I'll leave it alone because they could potentially be working on this. Okay, so we have 3 potential issues. I have no idea if we're going to be able to fix it, but we're going to try. And part of this this video can also be, okay, I want to fix this issue. How do I even find it in the code base, right? So find an issue to work on from GitHub issues. Add a comment that you're going to be working on it. We'll do that in a minute. Begin working. So here we'll have find the code where the bug/feature is. How do we do that? We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, but let's do a poll. Straw poll. Which bug should I try to fix? Yeah, and I think I mentioned this a minute ago, but when you're contributing, you don't have to just fix bugs. Like, you could potentially work on new features and stuff like that. But one of the things about an open source project is that everyone wants to work on the shiny things, the new things, and it's essentially creates technical debt because there's all these bugs that haven't been fixed. So that's why I'm focusing on bugs right now. I think I want to share this specific comment because that's the issue under this issue that I would be fixing. That one. This one. Actually, let's give it a nice wording because file not found. Infinite loop. Line 0 error on in Safari. Oh. Okay, these are your options. Vote now. I'll share the poll. Hello, Tahir from Morocco. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Andrew from Brazil. Welcome. Oh, Infi pointed out that typo a second ago, but they said they're watching it on their Switch. Does Switch have a YouTube app? That's pretty cool. And hello, Rabbitworks. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. Hopefully I can fix one of these bugs. I have no idea how complex it's going to be or what it's going to take to find it, but we're going to try. Okay, I don't need this tab. That's my local. Those are the 3 issues. All right, let's look at the incoming results. Vote now. Cool. I'll be right back, but keep on voting. All right, looks like there is an overwhelming winner. Oh, it's winning by 7 votes. But the file not found issue, so that'll be interesting. We'll see if we can fix it. Okay. Yeah, I asked about, so the Nintendo Switch has a YouTube app, but it doesn't have chat or interactive, so that's interesting. Ed is saying, glad it's Sunday tomorrow. It's 2:25 a.m. I was up till 3 a.m. last night. I don't know, but maybe you should go to bed, Ed. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, you do have one more day of rest before work begins. Andres is saying, I voted for the Safari bug because at work, that's the browser where our QA team finds most of my bugs. Yeah, it's unfortunate, like, if, not unfortunate, but Chrome, Firefox, these browsers are, like, very, very up to date in terms of, like, the latest features of JavaScript and of CSS and supporting all of these things, whereas Safari is a little bit behind, so a lot of the things that work in these other browsers don't work in Safari, but cool. El Barati says, does the infinite loop cause a browser crash, thus ending the stream? I don't know if it does, but it won't end the stream because it'll close my, and actually Chrome is isolated, so it'll cause the tab to crash, but also I'm streaming from a separate computer. Yeah, there's only 1 vote for the Safari error. Okay, so I think we have a winner. We're going to attempt to do the file not found one. Let's do it. So that specifically is this error right here. We get the JS. So ultimately what's happening with this issue is if there is an error in the code, it doesn't show up in the p5.js error console. It only shows up in the main console. So to see that in action, if I try to log a variable that doesn't exist, and then I run my code, I actually see that JavaScript error right here. Uncaught reference error, not exist is not defined. So the cool thing about the p5.js web editor is like anytime a JavaScript error occurs, you're gonna see that error output right here. But what this issue is describing is if we use code like this. So let's get rid of that. And we'll add our preload function, which is a part of p5.js. But this code is attempting to request a missing file. And if we run the code, oh, wow, is this fixed? But actually, if we look at the JavaScript console, we should see the error. Failed to load resource. The server responded with a status of 404 not found. So this particular error is not showing up here. It looks like they are providing a fairly useful error, though. Like this one, p5.js says, it looks like there was a problem loading your image. Try checking if the file path is correct, hosting the image online, or running a local server. And then we end up seeing this error. Okay, I'm going to try this in the production, the official p5.js web editor, and see what happens there as well, because we could be getting extra errors because I don't have all of the environment variables set up. But let's do it. I'm gonna try to run this. Yeah, and so while this is a very good error message we're getting here, we're still not seeing the failed to load resource error in the console. And for whatever reason, we have this weird event is trusted true thing. So I think we have a bug. Ultimately, the fix is going to be, we actually want to see this error, failed to load resource, in the p5.js editor console. That's my understanding of things anyways. Cool. And yeah, I mean, like, this issue is old, but they have mentioned that, that they're going to be working on it, or that no one has been working on it. So yeah. Let's look at this one, because it's somewhat related. However, the console message is not clear, and that's the issue. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so there's a file called preview entry that's loaded into the preview that catches console messages. If there, I think there's an issue with this, or another event handler that needs to be added. Okay, so I think we've confirmed that this is still an issue, especially because we're getting this weird event log is trusted, and I do see that that's coming from preview scripts. So I think we're going to proceed. We're going to attempt to make sure that this weird message doesn't show up, and then the actual error message does show up. So let's get going. As I mentioned, probably the first thing we want to do is, we found the issue, add a comment to the issue saying that you're going to begin working on it, just to make sure that no one else is working on this. And because you don't want to duplicate work, you don't want to be working on it and then someone else also starts working on it. So I'm going to add a comment. One thing I'll do is I'll take some screenshots just to make sure and get some clarification on what exactly is happening and make sure that that's the thing that should be fixed. Okay, so let's take a screenshot. And then let's make a comment. We're going to say, hey, we're going to start working on this. Let me know if this is if this is the right issue or if it's already been fixed. Hey, I'm going to take a stab at the file not found issue. This is what I see happening in the editor. And then I'm going to post the image. Can I host an image here? Let's just upload it to Imager. We'll go to my desktop, upload, copy the image address. Cool. And then I'm going to post that in here. This is what happening. This is what I see happening in the editor. Would the fix be to instead of showing the what is this event object? Show the actual error message. Failed to load resource. Just want to clarify. Would the fix be, instead of showing the event object log, show the actual error message that failed to load resource, the server responded? Cool. All right, let's preview it. All right, and I'll make the comment. I'm not going to wait for them to respond. I don't know what time zone Cataract is in or anything like that, so they may not respond directly, but I'm going to go ahead and start working on this. And right now, my assumption is that we shouldn't be seeing this event thing. We should see the actual error failed to load resource. So that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. Okay, that's my local one. Yeah, and it's always good to just verify that the issue is still happening like I just did. Because it could be that it was fixed maybe in another pull request, but nobody ever marked this issue as fixed, and then you could be just spinning your wheels working on something that's not actually an issue. But it does look like this is an issue, so we're going to work on it. Yeah, Aaron says Command-Shift-5 lets you screenshot a specific window. Yeah, I didn't want to get all my browser tabs, though. I wanted to be, like, specific. Hello, Elia. Welcome to the stream. Infi says, by the way, I just wanted to point out your Vue.js projects are what made me start using Vue, and it's the best JS framework I've used so far. Glad to hear it. I'm glad I can be an evangelist for Vue. I actually have to code in React every day at work, but some new projects are coming in. I think I've convinced people to let me use Vue, so yeah. Hexception says you can just drag the image into the comments box and it would have worked. Oh, okay. Well, I uploaded it to Imager and then just pasted the link there, so that should be fine. Okay, let's get started. So if we look at our breakdown, we added a comment that just makes sure that people know that we're actually working on this. They don't need to duplicate effort. Let's begin working. And the first step is to find the code where this bug or feature actually is. So we need to figure out where and how in the code base is this happening so that we can start to work on a fix. So let's see. Typically for this, we're going to use the debugging console. And when an error happens, we can actually see the line of code that it happened on. So let's see. Failed to load resource. The server responded with the status of 404. Okay. And actually, let's just refresh. Ooh, not that. Let's refresh the page just so we have like clean error messages, or at least not error messages that we don't exactly care about, because we don't care about those for now. We specifically care about what happens when we do this. Okay. So we have a pretty clean log. So we get 404 not found, and then we get this right here. So I think this is where I want to start because it's logging this object, but I wanted to log the error that happened before it. So we can see right here, it tells us the line of code where it happened. And if I click on that inside of Chrome, it should take me to the line of code that's doing it. Source mapped from preview scripts. There's no code in here. Let's see. Okay, so below that, I can actually see the stack trace. So in JavaScript, well, in a lot of programming language, the stack trace is a list of all the things that happened up until this error point. So we have here image on error, and that's calling inside of p5.js, and then target console, it's calling this index.ts file. When I click it, it didn't load. Let's actually try to look at it in VS Code. So this is in the directory source unhook index.ts. Let's try to find it. So we're specifically working on the front end, so we probably need to be in the client directory. If we see, is there a source directory? No. Is there anything called unhook? I'm just going to search for unhook. So Command Shift F inside of Visual Studio Code lets you search all of the code base. So I'm going to search for the word unhook and see what we find. It's not case sensitive. It's not a regular expression. Unhook. What if I search for hook? Okay, there's a few. I don't think that's what we need though. Let's go a bit further down. Preload on line 59, p5.load image, image.onError. Yeah, it's interesting that the web editor here is actually pulling in p5.js from a CDN rather than being in the code base itself. Because to fix that, we would actually need to fix the p5.js library and not the p5.js editor. So that's interesting. It could be that we actually need to make a pull request over there instead of over here. Let's see. Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is not actually taking me to the code. It looks like they do have source maps enabled, but you can't exactly get to them. Like here's the Webpack build, here's the client. These are the various JavaScript files. Yeah, I'm just gonna do a text search for this. So it says p5.js says it looks like there was a problem loading your image. So I'm gonna copy that string and just search the whole code base to see if we can find p5.js says. And we can't. Says p5.js? Okay. There's a lot of p5.js. Yeah, and I did mention it, but it looks like that specific error message is coming from p5.js. We just need to figure out where this event is actually getting logged. I guess we can try and figure out where is the console code and maybe start from there. So let's look at the source. If we look at modules, IDE, pages, there's the IDE view. Let's see if it references the console. Yeah, so bring in the console from components/console. This is React code, so we're seeing like import statements. If I just search this file for console, let's search for console with the bracket so I can see where it's brought in. So I see console, it has a font size, dispatch console event. So this is most likely how potentially the errors are getting pulled into the console. Yeah, so Brekek is mentioning that it's coming from preview scripts. I think preview scripts is like something generated though. Let's search for preview scripts. Okay. This could be a good place to start. Because the preview frame is, so we're creating a script tag, we're setting the source to be preview scripts, and then adding it. What that probably does is it like takes the code in here and then applies it to the iframe that's actually doing the preview. Let's try doing it again and see if we get a different error message. Yeah. Oh, you know what it was? When we were on the production editor, that's when it said preview scripts, not in the local one, because the local one is like trying to map like the development files, which it can't exactly do. Yeah. So that's coming from preview scripts. And there probably is a way for it to forward the error back to the console. I think that's what I'm going to focus on. Like, how does the console actually get error messages that it can spit out? And then we can work backwards from there to see how the error message got in there to begin with. So this is a good place to start. Let's keep this file open. Yeah, let's keep it open because we'll come back here later. But we did see components console. So this is the console React component. Its render function. So there's a clear button right here. Yeah, so it looks like in the code we found where this button is. What I'm going to do right now, just to make sure I'm in the right place, is I'm going to add something just like a hello world to see if I'm in the right component. So let's do this. So there's this element, preview console messages. It's mapping over the events. What happens if I just add like an H1 right here that says, hello world? There it is. Cool. So it looks like I'm in the right place. And now I can kind of start to reverse engineer how this is actually happening. So play. Those get added in. Cool. So this is where the error messages show up. But how do the error messages get in there? I don't know. We got to figure that out. So let's get rid of that hello world. It looks like it's mapping over the console events and then just showing each console event. So I want to figure out how are those things getting into the console events. So let's just search this file for console events. So console events is a prop, meaning in React, that's passed down from the parent component. So if we go back to the parent component, which was IDE view, we can see that console events comes from this.props.console. So let's figure out in this component, what is this.props.console? There are 46 occurrences. We'll find it, though. This is using Redux, though, so this could be that it's actually mapped from the store. So if we look at our map state to props, yep, we can see that it's coming from state.console. And so console is going to be or state.console is most likely like a Redux module. So let's look in the store to find the console. So where are we? We have modules, app, user, actions, reducers. Reducers might be where we actually find the console. Oh, here we go. I missed it, but reducers. So if we look at the console reducer, this is all of the state. Cool. So the state here is literally just an object, an array, and all of the messages that get pushed into here are ultimately what it's going to show in the console. And it looks like when a console event happens, it pushes that event into the array. So what I want to search for now is a console event. So I want to see anywhere in the application that can fire off a console event, and maybe we can narrow down how specifically this image error console event is getting fired off. So let's copy this, search the whole code base for a console event. Yeah, instead of searching for action types.console event, I'm just going to search for console event because it could be that when they imported it, they destructured it. Okay. So we have console event. I see. So this is this is the action that will dispatch the console event. So we may need to search for this to see where this is called. Yeah, so if we look here, dispatch console event, let's see in the whole code base, where is dispatch console event called? It's called in the IDE view and the preview frame. It's also called in console. Let's see. So when the component updates, interesting. It looks like dispatch console event dispatches all of them. Let's go back to the reducer. So like every time an error happens, yeah, it looks like every single time an error happens, it sends the entire array of messages every time, which is interesting, but keep going. So that's where it's dispatched. It's dispatched here too. The preview frame is now dispatching a console event with the decoded messages. So the preview frame is this thing on the right-hand side that actually shows the preview. So I think this is how it's sending that error message back over. And so this could potentially be where we start. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add a breakpoint right here. I can just click that, that red thing, and that makes it so that when it hits this line, it will stop. And I'm actually going to start up Chrome Debugger, so I'll actually be able to debug inside of VS Code. So let's start this up. It should ask me to create a configuration. If not, no, we may need to create a debug configuration. So let's add a configuration. Here we go. And so I don't want to launch a program. I think the type I want is Chrome. Let's undo that. Let's see if there usually is like an interactive way. Here we go. So I want to launch Chrome. Attach to process, attach to remote. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see. I used to be able to do this. Like, it would actually launch like a separate Chrome browser. I don't know if they removed it, if there's another way to do it. Let's get rid of this configuration. I'm just going to search the web real quick. VS Code debug Chrome process. Chrome debugging for VS Code. Yeah, so we add a breakpoint, we start it up, it launches a Chrome browser, and then we should be able to like hit our breakpoints. To get started, open the extensions view and install debugger for Chrome. Maybe I have to install it. Yeah, I feel like it used to be built in, but maybe it's now a separate package. So yeah, this is the one we want. It's from Microsoft. Install. Cool. Looks like I don't have to reload. And then maybe it should be an option for debugging now. So if we go to add configuration, here we go, Chrome attached. So attached to an instance of Chrome already in debug mode. Actually, I'm gonna do launch. The port number is 3000, I think. Yeah, or 8000. So I'm gonna change this to be 8000. And then we should be able to launch it. So launch Chrome, go. Cool. So that's launching the editor. Looks like we have the debug tools. It looks like I added a breakpoint earlier on editor. I'm gonna get rid of that and click play. Let's open up the DevTools. I think I wanna hide the Redux DevTools. Why did those show up? Oh, those like automatic. Let's just put the DevTools on the bottom. Cool. And now, so now that this is up and running and it's attached, because I set a breakpoint in the preview frame, yeah, because I set the breakpoint right here, anytime this happens, the code is going to halt, and then I can inspect what's happening. So let's try to make it happen. Let's get our code that causes the bug. Well, I just need the preload. We're going to put that code here. And then we're going to attempt to run the code. Awesome. Okay, so an error occurred. We now hit the breakpoint and it launched us into VS Code, so we can inspect things. So when you're inspecting, you can actually see like the scope and the variables. So we can see decoded messages is now an array of length 2. It has a log that says p5.js says it looks like there was a problem. So we remember seeing that error before, so that's in there. And then the other one is this error object. Yeah, so if we look at data, it's an array, and then there's that object that gets logged. So my thoughts here are this is happening inside of the p5.js library, not the p5 editor. Like there might not be much we can do here. We might have to modify that other library, but it may not be that way yet. I'm just going to continue. If I press play here, the code will keep going. And if I go back to the browser, those errors now popped up, so that's cool. But we need to see, like, where is this object thing coming from? If it's created inside of the editor, we potentially could fix it to be the correct error. But if it's just being forwarded wrong from p5.js, we may have to go over that way. So let's just see really quick. The decoded messages, where do those get created? Yeah, so it's message event data. It attempts to create in here. So I'm actually gonna set a breakpoint earlier on the message event to see if there's more information in there that we can derive from the errors, instead of at the end, because this is what actually creates the decoded messages array. I'm gonna set a breakpoint right there. Try again. It should halt. Okay, now if we look at message event, and we can inspect it over here. So if I look at message event, is trusted true. If we look at, it has a data property that has those two errors inside of it. There's that. And then the other one, just says error, and then the data is again that object with like event is trusted to. Okay, so yeah, the thing is, when we get here, that weird error object is not weird, but the thing that says like event trusted true is already there. So let's just play, and it should show up again. Yeah. Let's keep following it though. Let's see where handle console event is ultimately called. So yeah, this dot handle console event is just basically waiting for messages coming from the preview frame, and then that directly has the messages inside of it. Okay. Let's see. Inject local files. Yeah, I just want to make sure that when the error reaches the p5.js editor, it already is that object thing. Because if that's the case, there's not really much we can do about it. We would need to look into the p5.js library to see if we can change things there. Yeah. Let's see. So we're adding an event listener for that. Let's see this iframe element. Let's see if we have any control over it. So when it renders, we have the iframe element. We're injecting files. Yeah. Lucas is saying it's actually created in P5, they believe. Line 54,067. Yeah, the errors are dispatched in the P5 iframe, but the 404 error doesn't come through. Yeah, I think like one issue though is this error is coming through, and I'm wondering if this error was meant to be the 404 error, but it's now just showing up in a weird way. Who's to say? Let's see if we can set a debug point inside of Chrome, and that's kind of what we need to do in this case because the p5.js script isn't in the editor; it's being loaded externally. So if we look at sources, if we look at, I think it actually came from, yeah, p5.js. Ah. I just want to see, because this should be listed in this. Oh, yeah, canvas frame. And then that loads p5.js. Here we go. p5.js. Unfortunately, this is minified code. But if we can see where it potentially originates in p5.js. Here. So it attempts to load the image on this line. Friendly file load error. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to catch up on the chat because a lot of people are chatting. Cool. Yeah, so thanks, Linus, for the tip. I installed the Chrome Debugger extension inside of VS Code. That got me going. Linus saying the problem primarily was that the 404 error doesn't show up. Yes, I just have a feeling that this was meant to be the 404 error, but it's showing up in a weird way. But that probably is the case too. We need to verify like why is that error not even coming through. Cool. Yeah, so the 404 in the Chrome console and the event thing, 404 error message somehow escapes the IDE internal console. Yeah, the core problem is that P5 is loaded from a CDN in the first place, makes debugging a little bit harder. So yeah, I'm going to set that breakpoint there, and that should, like, maybe we can follow it all the way through to where it sends the message that an error has occurred. But let's do it. So if I click play here. Oh, interesting. It attempted to load the p5.js. Oh, it did. That's crazy cool. It loaded the p5.js source code inside of Visual Studio Code, so that's awesome. It's also good to know that this error does occur before... where are we? This error, because remember, we still have a breakpoint there, so that's going to get hit eventually. But this error happens first, so that's good. So we have the friendly file load error. And image.on error, that's built into the web browser. It's like you can detect when an error happens for a given image. Let's this error, let's see, does it have a message? Let's look in the debug console. So if we can look at E, we can inspect it. I see. And this, I think this is the object thing that's coming through. So ultimately, this error is what we're getting, but it's not that 404 message. And I think the thing is that that 404 message is actually like a network level error message. Let's see. Illegal invocation. But we see is trusted true. So yeah, this error comes through, but it's not actually the 404 not found error. I think that's the thing. Okay, let's follow this, and then we should make it back into our React code. So it's going to do the friendly file load error message, which is that nice printout we see. So I'm going to do step out, which will jump over all of this code. Actually, there's report. Let's get down here to report and see what that does, because I think that's eventually how it's going to hook into funneling its way back up into the error console. So we have the message. The method is load image. Let's go into this report. Friendly welcome is false. Let's see. So prints out a fancy colorful message to the console log. Cool. Let's step out of it. We'll go in. If the failure callback type, yeah, otherwise we're just going to log the error. And I guess this is what happens, which we haven't actually seen yet, is when a console log happens, or console error happens, the P5 web editor is tapped into that so that it can forward those messages. And so I guess that could be what we're missing, is like, how exactly does it tap into those error messages? So then when this does a console.error, that ultimately triggers our handling a console event. Which tries to log into the console. So I'm just gonna press play. Cool. So I guess it is interesting to note that the this error is happening before the p5.js thingy says it's happening. So potentially that's what we need to look into, is are we able to intercept when a network request error happens and report it? Because ultimately that's what should happen. Like, it actually should put the 404 not found error message before these two things, because this is just an after the fact of P5 kicking in when the error happens. So I think ultimately that's what needs to happen. Like, we're trying to mirror exactly what's happening in this console, so we do actually need to tap into when this happens. That'll take a little bit of research, but I think we don't have to delve into the P5.js library. We can do this outside of that, because ultimately this is the thing that's not showing up. Okay. I think we're good there. Let's catch up. Yeah, the current error listener seems to only listen to the errors in the iframe, not the browser networking errors. After all, the JS code doesn't know it's a 404 without additional handling, yet the console has that 404 anyways. Maybe window.onError could work. Yeah. I think the main issue there is if we do something like window.onError, we want to make sure that we're not duplicating events. Okay, let's keep looking. I'm going to stop the debugger for now. And figure out what's happening. Yeah, and I mean, I think this, or the listening for message, is actually what happens when something does a console log. Just let me test this theory. So like, if we're on a web page And we do console.log. Great. But if we tap into window.message, will we be alerted of when that happens? I could potentially create an infinite loop. Something happened. Okay, so we're adding an event listener for message, and then if I try to log hello, that doesn't get called. Oh, you know what? I think that the iframe is sending the message. Okay. Let's see. Do. We have the iframe element. Are we setting the source at some point? Search the whole code base for canvas frame. Nope. Yeah, Linus is mentioning try window.onError with use capture set to true, so we get all the errors. Let me look into that. So window on error, use capture. Let's see where you found that. How to catch all JavaScript errors. Global event handlers.onError. Oh, here we go. When a hey, thanks, Linus. When a resource such as an image or a script fails to load, an error event using interface event is fired at the element that initiated the load, and the onError handler on the element is invoked. This error events do not bubble up to the window, but at least in Firefox can be handled with window.add event listener configured with use capture set to true. Okay. Let's search the whole code base for onError. Here we go, console utils. What's going on here? So hijacked console error script. This is where it's happening. So here we're doing window.onError. And it's posting a message. And this is how it's happening. So this ultimately is what fires off the onMessage event here. So this thing's waiting for messages to happen. This script that gets injected is ultimately the one that will send that error message. So here is where we, or at least here, this onError is where we may need to tap into extra errors. Let's see, use capture, if that's mentioned anywhere else. When the function returns true, this prevents the firing of the default event error handler. So it's adding an event listener for error. Where would we pass that particular use capture from? When an error occurs in a script loaded from a different origin, yada yada. Okay, I think we're in the right spot though. Like we've at least figured out where this is happening and how we can affect it. Let's see. And let's modify this. Let's say so the message, we're gonna modify it and say, is this working? So whatever error message happens, we should see that appended to it. So let's refresh. Let's try to make this error happen. Not that one. This. go. Didn't quite work. I'm curious if this file is even getting called. Let's do our own console log right here. Whoa. We can just do like a totally separate error. I just want to make sure that we're in the right place and we're like, that is where the errors are getting intercepted. Whoa. Cool. So uncaught reference error not exist is not defined. And then our console log actually kicked in, which is weird. No, it's not. Because yeah, whoa happens before, but then later on this console kicks in and says, hey, I want to show the whoa, so that then it shows up second over here. But okay, so we're in the right spot. We're in the right spot. This is where the errors are actually happening, so that's a good sign. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna catch up on the chat because Linus was helping out. Yeah, ultimately we potentially need to figure out how to tap into use capture. The MDN doc says that it's only supported in Firefox. These error events do not bubble up to window, but at least in Firefox can be handled with window.addEventListener configured with use capture set to true. We want this to work everywhere, not just in Firefox, so there might be another way to tap into it. Okay, but let's just search the web for use capture again, but see if we can find some better examples. Yeah, this Stack Overflow issue. Yeah, so it finds that errors were not reported. Let's see. Is Dojo JavaScript? Am I looking at the right thing? So you can write the number like the error message like this. So okay, I'm gonna craft an internet search to look for this. JavaScript intercept 404 console error. How can you intercept a 404 HTTP error in JavaScript? I don't believe it's possible in JavaScript. This is a post from like 2001. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could also be if we see that the p5 friendly error message pops up, we actually inject our own error message right before that. It may not be the best fix, but it's something that we could do. So something like this. Okay. This is a bit off topic, but I recently rebuilt your Vue-based Hacker News client with Materialize and plain handlebars. Thanks for the inspiration. You're very welcome. Jelly says, it's been above my head since the stream started. We're doing what we can. Something like this is like a very deep error. It's like not like a new feature. It's weird. I don't know. Okay. What do we do now? Do we give up? No. Hopefully there's a way. There's got to be a way. We just got to figure it out. Unable to understand use capture parameter in add event listener. Let's see. You know what? So we are doing window.onError. I wonder if we could do window.addEventListener for error, and then pass the use capture in there instead. Yeah. Let's try doing that. So we would do window.addEventListener for error. And here we're going to pass in this function. So it should still work, but we're just tapping into it in a different way. And then if this still works, we can, this is where we'll be able to pass the use capture property. Okay, we need our broken code. Okay, so it still works. So add event listener is cool. And then we need to pass in, I believe, a second parameter that is true, like this, because it will capture. Let's just try it. So we're passing in error function and then a third parameter, true, which is use capture. Let's see if that affects anything. Well, it didn't break it, so that's a good thing. Yeah, and it could just be that these types of errors don't actually get forwarded to error because they're like network level errors, but let's see. Khan says, it's 3:20 a.m. After this, you need to debug my brain. Okay. So we are using use capture. Bind it to the error event. In addition to this, you can also catch all the errors fired inside a promise callback, listening for the unhandled rejection. We probably need to do that at some point. Okay, but I think we kind of just need to go down the path of like, is it even possible to tap into those 404 errors? I think I was searching here. Yeah, intercept 404 console error. Search Google. How can I catch a 404 error in JavaScript? Let's see. How to detect on-page 404 errors using JavaScript. Any ideas? To capture all error events on the page, you can use add event listener with the use capture argument set to true. So we did that. We did say true, but it didn't affect it. Yeah, so is there a way to get the error code also? So let's see. Actually, here I am going to log the message. Let's see if it's making it through, but maybe these if statements are preventing it from getting through. Because I am passing true to capture the events. Hello, Jobs, who says love from India. Thanks for tuning in. That is not logging. Oh, because maybe message is empty? Whoa. Wait, now that's not even getting logged. Yeah, let's look at this Stack Overflow post that they're referencing. Previously, on error gave information that was not provided by add event listener area. If you must use an old version of Firefox, you can safely use window.onError. Maybe that's why they're using window.onError to support older versions. Okay. Though, I don't know if this code is even running anymore. What if I just comment it out? Do-do-do-do. Yeah, if I comment it out, we're still getting errors in the console. So something else is handling this. I think I was in the wrong spot to begin with. I don't like, what if I delete it? Yeah, I could be in the wrong spot here. So I'm just gonna make sure. Yeah, I'm in the wrong spot. That's super interesting. So this code is here for something, but this is not what we want. I'm gonna just put it back to the way it was. Okay. Yeah, why is that whole listener in a function? That's just asking for bugs. I don't know. Okay, this is the wrong spot. Oh, why is it in a string? I think because it's being injected as like a script tag. Which is why it's a string, but yeah, it's a little difficult to code in when it's just a string. Okay. This. Yeah, it logged an error message before, but that could just be that, yes, it is firing, but this isn't the thing that actually forwards the messages into the web editor. Let's search for this post message thing. There's that. Console feed. Let's look up, what is this library? What does it do? Ooh, I think maybe this is it. So hook comes from console feed. A React component that displays console logs from the current page in iframe or transported across a server. So it's like an embedded thing that we're using. Cool. Oh, I see. It's just tapping into, it's hooking into any console log on window.console. I don't think this is errors. This is just console logs. Let's see. I feel like I can't like console log because I feel like even that would create like an infinite loop or something. Here. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's try our broken code. Yeah, I made an infinite loop. But that is getting called, and ultimately, it's getting called after. All right, I need to stop that. Okay, okay. At least it didn't crash the tab. So it looks like this is logging, but it could be that this package console feed doesn't capture events. Maybe we can modify that. It looks like some people are heading out. Job says, love the way your way of teaching. Keep it up, and please make some projects on React. Will do. See you later, Ed. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Linus Dev is saying the on error with on capture should work with the 404. It's important that we get all the errors. I agree, but at this point, we might actually be at the mercy of this hook library, which may not have that capture enabled. Maybe we can modify it. We'll see. See you later, Infi. It's late for everyone. And they're asking, am I standing or sitting in a chair? I am standing. I'm standing up. Okay. Andreas is saying, would you need to take another look at the GitHub issue now that you have taken a good look at the code base? Yeah, why not? I mean, I might actually see, have they responded? Like, hey, yeah, go ahead and work on this. I don't know why they would. Yeah, I mean, they're busy people. They're busy. Okay. I think that it is actually hook. Let's set a breakpoint here and do debugging just like we did before, just to make sure that this is where we need to look. Debugging. Let's launch Chrome. Let's grab our broken code. Oh, actually, I think this is jumping into P5 because we do have a breakpoint there. Thanks, Hage, for the encouragement. You got this, CJ. I'm with you till the end of this issue. We'll figure it out. Okay, so the P5 error happened. The console event happened. And oh, unverified breakpoint. Maybe it doesn't know how to load this. What about there? That's super interesting. I can't set breakpoints there. Let's try again. I am gonna get rid of that like p5 breakpoint. Let's see. It looks like these error messages are not. I mean, sorry, these debug breakpoints are not actually being set. Let's go into this library and see if we can set a breakpoint. Let's go to that definition. Okay, here's hook. Can I set a breakpoint? Oh, I can set a breakpoint here. Okay, so this is the official hook method, which will get called initially. Let's see. And then it's given a callback. Where were we? Okay, so it's given the callback, and then let's see where it actually calls that callback, which is right here. So let's set a breakpoint there. All right, let's see if it jumps into our code now. Let's try. Here we go. We still have that p5 breakpoint. I'm going to remove that. Actually, no, I'm not, because it's a good place to look, because we may need to tap into the image error event. I don't really know. Okay, press play. And then our other hook stuff didn't even get called. Okay, so maybe I'm not even looking in the right spot. I'm gonna look back at the issue and see, did they mention, like, where should I even look? Let's see. Okay. I was looking through how errors are captured and thought this might help. Let's look at that Stack Overflow. Did we look at this earlier? Yeah, I mean, I think we did. This is like the capture events, which we're not doing yet. Maybe we're using, oh, here we go. We're using the console feed library, so I'm not sure if that error needs to be added in addition to console feed. Yeah, I think this is a good sign, because they are mentioning that that's the library that's handling it, which is weird because we did find this code, the hijack console error script, which I don't think is even getting called or being used anymore. Let's see. Let's just search the code base for where console feed is being used. Okay, so import the console from console feed, and this is being used in our console component. And let's see how console feed is used in here. So yeah, we're just showing that there, passing in the styles. Okay. That's where we were before. This is bringing in decode. What does decode do from console error? Message.log. Okay. I think ultimately this may be an issue with this library. For whatever reason, we can't debug it, which is not good. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the source in here and set a breakpoint. Because typically, you can go into something like node modules. And then when you have source maps, and then you can set breakpoints from within there. So let's look at console feed, hook, index.js. Okay, let's see if this is getting called. Or if that breakpoint will even work. Go. Yeah, it really doesn't like this breakpoint in P5. Okay, keep going. Wait, did we do it? I'm gonna stop the debugger and restart it just so that that breakpoint is gone. Okay, let's try again. All right, let's bring up the error console. Clear this. Need to make the error happen. I thought I removed that breakpoint in P5. Keep going, buddy. Keep going. Okay, and then this breakpoint isn't getting hit, so that's interesting. And that's the one for the hooks library. Just for kicks, I wanna look into this. What do you call it? The console feed library, which is what they're using. And let's see if it uses event capture, because if not, maybe we need to make a pull request over there so that it fixes this issue over here. Remove the breakpoint in the bottom list in VS Code. Okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah, remove that. That one's still there. That one's still there. Okay, so here's console feed. Let's go to their GitHub and let's see how they do things. So we go into source. We have hook. Oh, you know what? I think that's kind of the issue. So like this is intercepting calls to console. So things like console.log, console.error, it's intercepting all of those calls. And I think the 404 error message isn't actually coming from console. Like it's more of like a browser thing. And so this isn't going to let us intercept it anyways, I think. And hello, Infi. Thanks for sticking around. Give me just a second. Okay. Yeah, override the console methods. And so that's basically what's happening. Yeah, so this is a tricky one. This is a very tricky issue. I also want to mention really quick that this should not deter you from attempting to contribute to an open source project like p5.js or the p5 editor, because there are a lot of other issues on there that are not this hard. This is probably why this issue has been open for so long, is because it's a very difficult issue to tackle. But this is development. This is open source development. This is what happens. It takes time. I'm just gonna see if this code base has like on error in it. I don't think it does. I think it literally just intercepts all calls to console log. So maybe we actually just need our own custom hook that does capture it. Okay. Let's do this. Let's stop debugging. Let's close out of hooks things. So, okay, what we've determined, ultimately, this just overrides console.log, console.error, it isn't actually tapping into the onError event. So we actually need to do this separately so that we can capture events. The only issue is we don't want to like duplicate errors that are happening. So maybe we only intercept or add the error if a specific thing is happening. Let's see. Curious like where this file is. So this is in libutils preview entry. So this is just like waiting for console logs. I'm trying to think like what's the best place where we could set up a listener. There's console utils. Yeah, John Doe is saying monkey patch window.console. That's actually what the hook library does. But ultimately, I think we can't get the error through console, which is why we need to do something else entirely. Let's see. Yeah, for now, I'm just going to add my code right here. Let's see if it actually gets called, though. Add event listener for error. We have our callback function, which gives us the error. And then we want to pass in true here, which will capture events. And that's what's been telling us online how we can tap into those network errors. So I'm just going to log e.message. Yeah, Linus is saying, can we try to add it regardless of duplication just to test if it even works? Yes. Okay, so hopefully this code actually runs and will detect any error event and then attempt to log it to the console. So let's see. I'm just going to run it here. It doesn't have to be in the debugger. Let me leave myself a note. Hey! This is our error. Okay, that code isn't even running. It could be because it's not the error, the on error of the window. It's the iframe. Let's see. Maybe I just need to move this code. We could potentially put it in the console component, which is the thing that is just displaying the console feed. And yeah, if this has a component did mount, we could potentially add it in component did mount. Let's try it. So in the console component, we're going to listen for errors. So we'll do component did mount and add our event listener there. Listening for errors. Okay. Let's see what happens. Yeah, listening for errors, so that's good. I do have some linting errors. Let's fix this. There we go. Okay, so full refresh. Listening for errors. Okay. Will it cause an error? Let's just try yeah, our custom error handling function here isn't working. But it, like I said, it could be that the iframe needs it. I don't know. Oh, okay. Let's see. going to try to use onError instead of add event listener. Well, that didn't work. I think ultimately this needs to be in the iframe, and then it needs to like post the message. I think that actually is the issue, which is why that that error logging code that I found earlier, this seems like it would be the place to do it. Yeah, Linus is saying the event thing we saw is the 404 error report. Is it just that it's not formatted in the right way? Because like that's what I did debug earlier. So let's just go back there. We can get back to that error message happening and then just show. So Linus is saying it shows us the path down to the broken image tag. Okay, let's debug it because we should be able to like get into that error message to see if it does have those specific errors. Okay, let's debug it. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of these node module breakpoints. We only want to see in here when a message is actually posted. Okay, thanks for the tips, Linus. We're gonna figure this out, and then I'm gonna eat dinner. Okay, so we're gonna try this. Gonna try this. Okay. So right here on message event.data. So if we look at our local scope, we have message event. Get rid of all that. We have data. That second object is the actual error object. So here, so method is error. Let's dive down into its properties. So is trusted true, object name, event. Okay, so at this point, all of the extra properties have been stripped off of it. So we may actually need to look at it inside of p5.js, like, okay, we're adding that breakpoint back. And let's just try again. Yeah, because we want to see this error in P5. It could be that we need to update p5.js. So yeah, it's going to report it. But if we look at, oh, that's the wrong one. This is the friendly error one. We want to look at image.onError. Here it is. So this this E right here is the wait, that's the one I want. Line 6640. Okay. Yeah, Linus is saying this simple code shows the same event thing. Okay, so potentially what we do is we modify that error that it sends up to be friendly and be like the actual error that it is. Well, let's see. Okay, keep going. I don't want to look at this anymore. Well, actually, I mean, we could potentially modify it and then see what happens. Okay, so I have that breakpoint in P5. We're going to try again. Wait, it didn't happen? Image.onError. I think this is what we want. Let's set the breakpoint in here. So if we look at the frame, cdn.js, p5, p5.js, image.onError. We want that breakpoint. Go. Just trying. Here we go. Okay. Where's my scope? I don't see any scope. Can we see it in here? Okay, go down one line. Okay, here we go. So now if we look at E, so what Linus was saying is that inside of here is the actual error message about the thing. So we have, oh, okay, we have path, image. No, we don't see anything there. Current target is image, base URI, current source, missing file. So it's in there, but note that this error is happening inside of P5, and by the time this error makes it to the editor, it's stripped off a bunch of the properties. So let's see. Because then we do console.error. Yeah, let's see. Okay, and now that's that same error message. And this is where it would hook into it to actually show it on the page. So maybe that method is what's stripping the info. I'm curious if anywhere on here, does it say like 404 not found? Like, can we see the actual message that's happening in the console? No, I mean, we have source element, target. Yeah, Linus is saying the code is doing the correct thing. It just looks different because we capture the event and not the message that the networking layer logs. Here's something to note, though. If I look at the console, actually, it's a little polluted. Let's do this. Just go through everything. Keep going. Keep going. Let's clear the console. Try again. If we see that 404 message in the console, then we know that it's basically happening before this is even kicking in, and we got to do something else. So let's try it. Okay, so now we get into the P5 on error. Should show up. Okay, so that's the on error. But if we look at the console, that error message is already there, right? Meaning we didn't intercept it before it happened, and we need to. So that's the trick. We do have this error object, and it does tell us where the image is, but it's not necessarily the network error. This is like the image error, because this has already shown up, but it's not being pushed into our console log. So I think we have to do something completely and totally different. But I appreciate Linus. So Linus is saying, if you just try this, you'll see it produces the same thing without all the complicated stuff. Okay, let's try it. We're just going to create like a junk file. Throw that in there, save it. Spin up light server. So yeah, we get the event with all that extra stuff, but this error here is not showing up. Yeah, so we are passing in true to bubble up events. Yeah, Linus is saying, as far as I know, this message can't be intercepted. I think that this hour and a half of debugging has resulted in the fact that it's probably not possible. So there are multiple things to point out here. The error gets logged to the console as a failed to load resource error, and never actually makes it to the intercept of console.error. So this right here is not showing up via console.error. These other things are. we can get rid of that example, but the other errors are being passed through console.error, which ultimately allows it to show up in the P5 console. Yeah, let's just stop debugging for now. So ultimately, this error we cannot intercept, at least for now. I mean, maybe there's another way, but I don't think we can intercept it. Infi is saying it's almost 3 a.m. I'm gonna sleep this time actually. All right, Infi, see you later. Thanks for tuning in. But we can kind of normal it down. Yeah, CJ wants to make a tutorial on contribution. Chooses the hardest problem, and it's not even possible to solve. I definitely knew this was going to be a debugging challenge because, like, we gotta. I mean, if we want to fix a bug, we gotta figure it out. Okay, JavaScript intercept this specific error message: failed to load resource. Yeah, detect and log when external JavaScript or CSS fails to load. See, lazy loading asynchronous JavaScript. That's not quite what I want. Failed to load resource. That's not what I want. Catching failed to load resource when using the fetch API. Cat D is saying you don't even have your free debug sticker on. That's a great point. When I set up these new stickers, I didn't have a free debugs. You can see on my old stickers. Well, where is it? Oh yeah, there. Free debugs. Free debugs. Yeah, I didn't have an extra one, so this one just says hello, friend. Okay. As far as I remember, you cannot catch browser-driven exceptions. Core's exceptions are thrown with intent. Looks like you're right. Thanks for the link. Yeah, so one thing we could do is if we see that this could not load resource message gets called from P5, we can insert our own log which mimics the browser log. Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, though, I think I'm gonna call it for there. But we need some we need some resolve to this episode, so we're definitely gonna have that. There's a comment from Infi. The Sega style CSS looks like SSD when it's upside down. That's actually like one of my favorite stickers. But you see that one? It's like in the style of the Sega logo. SSD. Okay. What should we do? Let's look at our to-do list, because like I don't think I'm ready to make a pull request yet. I'm probably gonna comment and just say like what I've found so far, and maybe see where to go from there. If you are interested in making pull requests or accepting pull requests, I have done videos in the past on how to do that. But essentially, you would push up to your fork, create a pull request, and then have somebody review it. But I don't have any code ready to go. I have questions that I need to ask or things I need to submit on there. Okay, so we definitely found it. We're not going to submit a pull request. We're going to just like comment with what we found. Yeah. So not that. Where are we? VS Code. I need a place to just type a comment. I'm gonna type it here and then I can copy and paste it in. Okay, so after a bit of debugging and research, comma, it appears that comma. Well, so after a bit of debugging research, I have found that the failed to load resource error might not be interceptable. How do you spell interceptable? Oh, I did spell it right. Why is this saying? You know what? The spell checker I have might actually be like UK driven. What happens if I type color? No, I don't know. Oh yeah, color. Hello. No. Okay. Eddie says, "I'm so glad I made this live one. Thanks for tuning in." Linus says, "It was really fun to debug and research this with you." Yes, thank you so much for your comments. Yeah. Okay. Javier is saying, "How do you pull to the main repo and not your forked version?" I could show that. So like, if you look on the fork, because the branch is even with master, it's not going to let me do this. But basically, what you do is you go to your fork, you click new pull request. You can say, okay, so base repository is what you're trying to merge into. So this is going to be processing p5.js web editor. And where it's coming from is going to be my account, and then I can choose a specific branch. One thing I would probably do is create a branch called like bug fix number, and then the name of the issue, or number of the issue, bug fix number 468. So I would create a branch called that, push my code up there, and then here I could compare the two and make the pull request. But yeah. Okay. After a bit of debugging and research, I have determined that the failed to load resource error might not be interceptable as it is occurring at the browser level. How do you spell occurring? Am I spelling these words wrong? 2 R's? Occurring. As it is occurring at the browser level. One option is to detect the... One option, comma, is to detect the failed to load image error provided by p5, comma, and emulate our and yeah, so it's to detect the failed to load image error provided by p5. Let's get some specific load, some comment things, like here. Yeah, in handle console event. So this is IDE components preview frame. I'm going to link to the code on GitHub so they know what I'm talking about. So let's go here. Let's go to the source code. So client, which one was this? IDE modules, IDE components, preview frame. This line right here. And so I'm going to link to this line. Yeah, okay, so after a bit of debugging and research, I've determined that the failed to load resource error might not be interceptable as it is occurring at the browser level. One option is to detect the failed to load image error provided by p5 and inject/emulate an error to match the failed to load resource error. We might do that here. Cool. Rabbitworks says, thanks for this huge lesson. You're welcome. We didn't figure anything out, but we did like dive into the source code. You potentially learned about debugging with Chrome and VS Code, so that's cool. You see my thought process when I'm just like trying to figure out where the heck in the code is this even happening. This is a very interesting one though, because we're dealing with this console log intercept, like it's kind of even hard to debug our own code with console logs. I don't know. Okay, so Linus says, the error is bubbled up from the iframe to the window. This error event is what we are capturing. Number to the window.onError. Ambition is asking, why do spell checkers squiggly line this? I don't know. I think I spelled it right. Yeah, I am going to give the line number to window.onError. Yeah, because we did find that code. I think it was like in utils. Where is it? Utils, not preview entry. Console utils. This thing? Like, is this even running? So we're exporting two functions. Yeah, let's see if this hijack console error script. Okay, preview frame does intercept, or not necessarily, it imports it in and then injects it here. So that's cool. So that code actually is making it in. For whatever reason, I like we were adding stuff here and it didn't seem like it was really doing anything. Oh, or was it? No, I think it was. You know what yeah, okay, I get it. So like there's this, but then there's also that hook library. They're both kind of doing things in conjunction. I kind of don't know what the difference is between the two because they're both intercepting the stuff. I don't know. Linus is saying the error event gets bubbled up to window.onError. Yeah, and ultimately that is that second, like it's that object that gets logged, but we lose all of the information and it no longer says failed to load resource. That specifically is like the image load error object. Yeah, so it's occurring at the browser level. One option is to detect the failed to load image error provided by p5 and inject/emulate an error to match the failed to load resource error. We might do that here. Cool. Thanks for the stats, Infi. Yeah, Khan is saying it was funner than I expected. That's good. Tony says, thanks, CJ, you the best. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, Linus, code review my comment that I'm about to post. What's missing from it? Or because I know you're mentioning the error event gets bubbled up to window.onError. So like technically that error, and let's just see it in action. Let's get the broken code. Yeah, so this object here is actually coming from image.onError. So like you can detect when there is an error loading an image, like using like DOM manipulation. So this is the onError for the image, which is actually separate from the error of resource like get resource 404 not found. It's interesting that I'm getting a new error message. Yeah, it's this. Or cool. Okay, I think this is a good enough comment. I'm losing it. I've been coding. I've been standing up all day. Let's just add the comment. Oh, that's a good point. Carlos is saying, does CodePen catch this error? Yeah, let's see what people have already done before. Let's just see. Create a pen. Start coding. Yeah, because I mean the p5.js editor is very similar to this. Like if we look at the console, but let's try it. We're just gonna do some. This. So we added the image. If we look at the browser console, yeah, failed to load server responded with the status of 403. So that's happening here, but we're not seeing it in the console. But if I do something like console.log not exist, we are seeing this uncaught reference error. Yeah, so it looks like CodePen isn't even doing it. Infi is saying, I'd replace the second failed to load resource with simply browser error, now that you have two different errors. Yeah, it's interesting. When was I seeing the failed to load resource error? I think that was when I was using Chrome or like the debugger. I'm gonna leave both of them. Yeah. Yeah, it might not be interceptable as it's occurring at the browser level. One option is to detect the failed to load image error provided by P5 and inject/simulate an error to match the failed to load resource error. We might do that here. Thoughts, and I'll just mention it real quick. Another thing to note, the console on the CodePen editor does not forward a 404 not found error. I'm curious why my console log isn't working. Console.log. Hello. Okay. So it logs hello, but I don't see any of the errors. I guess this one doesn't. I guess this doesn't forward any of the errors. Infi is saying line 20, not 18. Where? Don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to add the CodePen thing because it looks like CodePen doesn't even forward errors to the console. And hello, Christian Wickman. I'm actually about to head out, but it has been a long time. Thanks for dropping by. We were actually attempting to fix a bug in the p5.js editor, but couldn't figure it out. I potentially don't think it's possible, but essentially this 404 error is happening, but that's not getting forwarded to the console here. And I don't think it's possible. We could fake it, which is my suggestion. We'll see what anyone has to say about it. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna add that comment, and then I'm gonna go and coding for a very long time. Let's preview it. Oh, the second one, I see. Inland error to match the browser error. I see. Because I said it twice. There we go. You were line 20 in my README. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Infi. Christian is saying, I just now realized that the stream wasn't over. Have been watching the last video instead. Cool. Hage is saying it's a browser issue. Yeah, like not necessarily a browser issue. It's just the fact that browsers, at least Chrome, will log that message, but not forward it to any error handlers because it's like a network level error. Let's say that. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that I'm getting different error messages. Yeah, this says failed to load resource, and then this one has like a get. Let's just reload. Yeah, weird. Sometimes it's that error, sometimes it's another error. Okay. Preview. Okay, add the comment. That is my contribution. Cool. Question from... Oh, cool. Thanks, Linus Dev, for chiming in. Yeah, cool. Thanks so much. Robins on is asking, do people sometimes get paid for contribution? Yes, a lot of times if a company uses an open source library, they might actually allow their employees to use company time to work on an open source project. So you're not technically getting paid directly to work on that library, but as an employee of the company, like a salaried employee of the company, they're letting you use your work time to work on the open source project. That actually happens a lot. Okay, I added the comment. I think we're good there. We have all these tabs of research. We didn't figure anything out, but we did a lot of debugging. It was a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for your comments, your contributions, all that stuff. Oh yeah, that's a good call. Infi is saying failed to load resource is production. The other one is like Webpack. Thumbs up, Linus. Thanks for helping out. All right, I think that's it. Yeah, we did it. Yay, I'm gonna go eat my dinner now. All right, everyone, wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Until next time, here's this.